everybody, it's Dr. Donna Barros of the Thought Word Academy, and today we are discussing how not to be overwhelmed, or even whelmed for that matter. So let's talk about what that is. Remember that we can never separate the body and the mind. They're always connected. The spirit as well. So body, mind, and spirit are always working intertwined with each other. And when we begin to feel overwhelmed, we have to look at how we can best start to ameliorate those feelings. And that means we need to work on things from each one of those areas, from the body, from the mind, and even from the spirit. Now, it doesn't mean we have to do all three at once, and sometimes we can just do one of those things and it will begin to start that process of feeling better. And other times we have to go through as many different options as we can. So let's talk about, first of all, one of the simplest things that we can do when we're in a sense of overwhelming. When we're feeling overwhelmed, what does that look like? Well, for everybody it looks very different. Sometimes being overwhelmed means the same exact kind of feelings you would have from having a full-on panic attack. Sometimes being overwhelmed can cause you a lot of physical stress. You can feel yourself getting all tight. You can feel yourself knotted in your shoulders and your stomach. You could feel nauseous, or you could feel like you want to eat. You could feel a headache coming on. You could feel exhausted, like you want to pass out. You could feel yourself just getting very, very tight, your heart palpitating. You can feel your hands shaking. I mean, it could be any of these things, or sometimes none of them, can be something completely different. But there's always going to be some sort of physical response, okay? Whether we are very, very aware of it or whether it's more subtle. Then we have the mental, right? What's going on in that moment of feeling overwhelmed? What kinds of things are we telling ourselves? Sometimes in a moment of feeling overwhelmed, it's, I can't do this anymore. I can't take this. This is too much. This is impossible. This is unrealistic. I'm, drowning, whatever those things are, right? So we have that mental aspect to it. And then the spiritual, in the spiritual aspect, it's our energy. And our energy becomes very, very low in that moment, right? Our energy is vibrating in a very, very low frequency. And that means that we're starting to attract more of those low frequency, like our low frequency experiences. Right? So when we're overwhelmed, it's like one thing after another. And then, well, once that momentum builds, then it really is one thing after another happening because we are now gravitating towards or bringing towards us more of these experiences. And even if those things may have already been there, we might actually be focusing on them more because of the fact that now we feel this way and it's becoming more and more obvious to us that these things are around us and they're bothering us more, even though they could have been around us all the time. So when we look at this, we understand that it is very real, all the connection of the body, mind, spirit, when we're in a feeling of being completely whelmed or overwhelmed. Okay? So let's look at some of the things that we can do in those moments to try and help bring us back down to a calmer, more balanced place. Okay? So the first place we're going to start is looking at some options for body. So number one, under body, one of the first most important, basic, and really strongest exercises we can do in a moment of feeling overwhelmed is breathing, right? Proper breathing. Not just breathing like, that sometimes we do, but real breathing from the place of the diaphragm. So when you're in a space of feeling yourself getting very tense, getting very upset, feeling very overwhelmed, take a break, go anywhere you need to. Go outside, go into the loo if you have to, go into your car, wherever you need to just get some space and sit for a moment or stand, okay? And take a deep breath in through your nose, right? So breathing in through your nose. So as you breathe in deeply, you can put your hand on your stomach and make sure you're breathing from the diaphragm, that your stomach is expanding, going out as you breathe in. So breathe in through your nose, expanding out your stomach, and then exhaling out the mouth and just feeling your stomach full. So we're breathing in, Expanding the stomach and then exhaling out, feeling the stomach full. So you want to do this. There's no rule about how to do it. You can just breathe slowly 10 times. You can follow one of the methods, such as breathing in for 4 seconds, holding it for 4 seconds, and exhaling it out for 6 seconds. Or you can do box method breathing as well, which is 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. Breathing in, holding, exhaling, wait, breathing in, holding, exhaling, breathing in, holding, exhaling, right? You can take 3. The goal is to oxygenate your blood as much as possible, because as we add more oxygen into the blood, we feel relaxed. And so we just want to get some good oxygen into the blood by hook or by crook. Whatever way, there's no right or wrong way. Obviously, we shouldn't hyperventilate. That would probably be a wrong way. But other than that, there is no, let's say, proper way to do it that has to bring the oxygen to your blood. Just breathe in, breathe deeply, and give yourself a moment to just feel those effects. This next exercise actually connects by using both breathing and acupressure. So with this one, what you're going to do is you're going to take your finger and you're going to press here on this point, which releases stress. And then as you're massaging this point, you're going to take your thumb. So the point I'm doing is between the eyebrows. And you're going to take your thumb, you're going to close one nostril, and then with the free nostril, you're going to breathe in, breathe out that free nostril, then close that nostril up and open the other one that you had closed with your thumb. Breathe in and breathe out, and continue doing this. You can do it 10, 12 times, whatever feels good. But in this way, we're actually working on syncing the 2 hemispheres of the brain by switching between left and right. And at the same time, we're breathing in deeply, we're oxygenating the blood. And through that process, we're finding that relaxation, and we're using this acupressure point as well in order to help release the stress. So next up is from the mind. In the mind, we need to focus solely on what we can control. A lot of times when we feel overwhelmed, we feel like everything is out of our control. And to be honest, usually everything is out of our control. But what we're hoping to do when we are going through this process of releasing is to just be able to focus only on the things that we do have control over, like our breathing, or maybe changing location for a moment, or thinking about the things that are happening right now and refocusing on what I can do in regards to anything that's happening around me that I do have some control over, whether it's my thoughts. Okay, I may not be able to stop the thoughts from coming, but I can decide if I want to give time and attention to those thoughts. So in the moment when you think about those things that you can control, then I invite you to try and break those things up into the 4 categories that Stephen Covey created for time management. So the first category is urgent and important. And that means these are like the roof is on fire, you've got to put it out, you have no choice. And when you're overwhelmed, it may feel like everything is like that at that moment. But this is where we want to kind of break it down and ask ourselves, okay, are these things that really all have to get done at this moment? Have I given myself these deadlines? Are these deadlines movable? Are these things that were suddenly thrust upon me that I have to do? Or would I even be able to delegate it to someone else? Or could I just say no? Am I saying yes because I feel like I have to, or I've been in some way manipulated into feeling guilty if I don't? And so maybe there's a large amount on my plate of things that I feel are important and urgent, but only because I've not set healthy boundaries. So we look at all the things that are in that first category of urgent and important, which is the last place we want to spend all of our time. So for example, the place where I should be spending more of my time is in the second quadrant, where things are important but not urgent. So that's a planning stage. That's a stage where I can adjust things and time frames, and I don't have to feel so much pressure that all of this has to be done at once. Sometimes we give ourselves a deadline about something that we have to do or a task we have to get done, and we say like, I've got to get it done today. And then we start to feel this pressure about getting it done. We forget to ask ourselves, does it really have to get done today? Maybe I could do it tomorrow. We put these false pressures on ourselves and then forget that if we created that deadline, we can also change it. So being able to ask ourselves, what can I put into the second category, the second quadrant, that allows me to see these things as important, but not have them be so urgent that they have to get done at this moment. So I can remove some of those things from quadrant 1, put them in quadrant 2. Then the next question is, do I have things that are in quadrant 3 that are disturbing me? And those are things that are urgent but not important, right? Things that are binging up on your phone, read me, look at me, answer me, text messages and calls that are coming in, and advertisements for things, all these sort of things that are coming in that feel like there's all this pressure, like I have to read it, I have to look at it, but they're not important, but they feel like they're urgent because they've got bells and whistles. So turning things off like that, turning things off of our phone, turning off notifications for certain things, just leaving it to the essentials so that I can make sure that what I'm being prompted with are things that are important but not urgent and unimportant. And then lastly, we have the category, the quadrant of unimportant and not urgent. And that is the time wasters. The things that we do are just scrolling through social media or looking at things online and watching videos or whatever. And not to say that we shouldn't do that, because we need some decompression, but the problem is that most of us spend all of our time in category 1, where we're just putting out fires that we're so exhausted we skip over 2, and we sometimes just get annoyed by 3, and then we go right to quadrant 4, where we're just too exhausted to do anything else, and so now we're just doing meaningless whatever until we pass out. And so you don't want to be juggling constantly between category 1 and category 4. You'd rather spend as much time as you can in category 2, have the space for things that come into 1, and then when you want to, spend a little time in quadrant 4. Okay, so basically what we're trying to do is, when you feel overwhelmed, stop and take a moment and organize those things. If you can, write them down. Look at all the things that you say right now are happening. And the things that you have some control over, ask yourself where I can put these into which quadrants. And the things that you have no control over, well, those are the things that we're going to have to release and just be accepting of. Like, this is happening right now. There's not a lot I can do,